Here are the prime numbers: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The numbers you can't break into smaller factors. Lay them out on the number line and one thing jumps out. Sometimes two of them sit right next to each other, just 2 apart. 11 and 13, 17 and 19. We call those twin primes. Now here's a question a child could ask. As you walk further and further out along the number line, do these close pairs keep showing up forever? Or do they eventually stop? It sounds simple, it is not. Nobody could answer it. Not in 150 years of trying. Then, in 2013, a man almost no one in mathematics had heard of, a lecturer in his late 50s who had spent years without a permanent job, proved something nobody had managed before. He couldn't prove the pairs were exactly 2 apart, but he proved that pairs no more than 70 million apart keep coming forever. 70 million sounds enormous. It was a finite number, and that was the breakthrough. And within a single year, a crowd of mathematicians took that 70 million and drove it down and down to 246. This is the story of how and why the last step is still out of reach. Let's be precise about what we're measuring. Take any prime and look at the distance to the next one. That distance is the gap. From 3 to 5 is a gap of 2. From 7 to 11, a gap of 4. From 23 to 29, a gap of 6. And here is the first important fact. The primes thin out. The further you go, the rarer they get, because larger numbers have more possible factors to trip over. Around 100, the primes sit about 5 apart on average. Around 1 billion, the average gap is about 21. Keep going, and the average gap grows without any limit at all. In fact, you can build a gap as large as you like, on demand. Want a run of 1,000 whole numbers in a row with no prime anywhere among them? It exists, and it's easy to point to exactly where. So the typical distance between primes marches off toward infinity, which is what makes the close pairs so strange. If the primes are spreading out forever, you would expect the tight little twins, 2 apart, to give up and vanish. Those stubborn pairs have a name: twin primes, and a claim attached to them. The twin prime conjecture says that no matter how far out you go, you will always find another pair just 2 apart. They never run out. Every piece of evidence we have says it's true. We've found twin primes with hundreds of thousands of digits. We've found them as far out as anyone has bothered to look. There's even a clue hidden in the arithmetic. If you add up the reciprocals of all the twin primes, 1 over 3, 1 over 5, 1 over 5, 1 over 7, and onward, the sum doesn't blow up to infinity. It settles down to a finite number, a little over 1.9. That convergence is a fingerprint of just how rare the twins are. But evidence is not proof. The conjecture was written down by a mathematician named de Polignac in 1849, and from then until almost the present day, no one could prove it. Not the twin primes, and, the part that really stings, not even a much weaker version of it. Here's the weaker version, and you need to feel how modest it is. Forget proving the gap is exactly 2. Just prove that some gap, any single fixed size at all, keeps happening forever. Maybe primes keep coming in pairs 4 apart, or 6 apart, or 1,000 apart. Pick any bound you like, and ask only this: do pairs of primes closer together than that bound show up infinitely often? For any specific bound, that alone would be a giant result. It would mean the primes never fully spread out, that no matter how far you travel, you keep stumbling onto 2 of them huddled together inside one fixed window. And before 2013, no one could prove it for any bound whatsoever. Not 70 million, not 1 billion, not a number with 1,000 digits. We knew for certain that the average gap grows forever. Whether the smallest gaps stay bounded forever, whether the primes keep huddling, was completely open. The tools simply were not there. Then came Yitang Zhang. In 2013, he was a lecturer at the University of New Hampshire in his late 50s, and almost unknown. He had earned a doctorate years earlier, but had struggled to find permanent work in mathematics. At one point, he worked as an accountant, and by several accounts took shifts at a sandwich shop to get by. He was not on anyone's list of people about to crack a famous problem. Working alone, quietly, for years, he went after exactly the question we just described. And in May of 2013, he submitted a paper with a result that stopped the field cold. He proved that there are pairs of primes no more than 70 million apart, and that these pairs occur infinitely often, all the way out, forever. You keep finding two primes within 70 million of each other. 70 million is a ridiculous-looking number to celebrate. It is nowhere near 2. But that was never the point. For the first time in history, someone had pinned the smallest gaps underneath a finite ceiling. It's worth sitting with why a number that big was such a shock. The whole difficulty was the jump from no ceiling at all to a ceiling. Once you have any finite bound, the entire nature of the problem changes. Think of it as a door that had been locked for 150 years, with no one even sure a key existed. Zhang did not open it all the way. He forced it open a crack, 70 million units wide. But a crack is not nothing. A crack means the door can move. And the moment everyone could see it move, the only question left was how far you could push. Because 70 million was not fundamental to his method. It was just the number that happened to fall out of his particular calculation. A calculation he had deliberately kept loose to be safe. Tighten the estimates, and the number had to come down. Zhang had handed the world something it had not had in 2 centuries. A number to improve, and the world fell on it. Within weeks, mathematicians were posting improvements openly, online, anyone welcome to join. The effort organized itself into one enormous collaboration, a polymath project led in part by Terence Tao, where dozens of people sharpened Zhang's argument together, in public, day by day. The number started to fall. 70 million. Then a few million. By late July, 2 months after Zhang, the bound was 4,680. Then a young mathematician named James Maynard, working entirely on his own, found a different and cleaner route to the same kind of result, and pushed the bound down to 600. Tao had reached a similar idea at almost the same moment. The two approaches folded back into the collaboration, and the number kept dropping. By April of 2014, 1 year after Zhang's paper, the bound stood at 246, from 70 million to 246 in 12 months. Pairs of primes no more than 246 apart appear infinitely often, all the way out to infinity. That is proven, that is certain, 246. We are so close you can almost touch it. Twin primes are a gap of 2. We have driven the guaranteed gap down to 246. On the scale of this problem, that is the width of a hair. And we can get closer, but only by borrowing. There is a deep, unproven conjecture about how evenly the primes are spread out, called the Elliott-Halberstam conjecture. If you assume it is true, the very same machinery drives the bound from 246 all the way down to 6. 6 apart, infinitely often. But that rests on an assumption no one has proved either. And here is the wall. To get from 6 down to 2, to actually prove the twin prime conjecture, the pairs exactly 2 apart, the current methods stop working. There is a known barrier built into the technique, a limit it cannot cross on its own. The last few steps, from 246 down to 2, are not a matter of grinding harder. They need an idea we do not have yet. So here is where we stand. For almost all of mathematical history, we could not prove the primes keep huddling at all. Now we know for certain that pairs closer than 246 recur forever, and a single year of open collective work carried us most of the way there from a standing start. The twin prime conjecture itself is still open. The distance from 246 to 2 is tiny to look at and enormous to cross. But the thing that changed in 2013 was not just a number. It was that a problem everyone had quietly filed under impossible turned out to be merely very hard. Pried open by an unknown lecturer who refused to stop working on it, and then nearly finished by a crowd. The primes still keep their oldest secret. We just got closer to it than anyone expected to live to see. And somewhere out past 246, the last idea is waiting for whoever finds it next.